You know that feeling, right? The moment you hear the word audit, your stomach drops and you start wondering, are we ready? Did we get the absolute best deal? Well, what if I told you that the one thing you're probably worried about most, the price, is exactly the wrong thing to be focused on? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on sourcing audits and show you what auditors are really looking for. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way right now. The biggest myth about sourcing audits is that they're all about price, that the auditor is just on a mission to see if you got the cheapest option. But that's not it at all. The reality is they're asking a totally different question. Was your process defensible? See, it's not about the final number. It's about being able to prove step by step how you got to that number. So if you want to ace an audit, you've got to learn to think like an auditor. And an auditor, they're basically a process detective. Their job isn't to second guess your business decision. It's to review how you made it. Was the process fair to everyone involved? Did you follow your own company's rules? Was it transparent? It's always about the how, not the what. So what does this how actually look like in practice? Well, a sourcing audit isn't just some random fishing expedition. It's actually a very methodical, very structured review. So let's walk through the 7 main steps of a typical audit. That way, you'll know exactly what's coming.
All right, it all kicks off with step 1, defining the scope. This is where they decide which project, which time frame, and which policies they're looking at. Next up, step 2 is the document request. This is where that paper trail you've been building becomes so important. Then comes step 3, the process walkthrough, where you actually have to explain your thinking. And in step 4, the supplier evaluation review, they're going to dig into your scoring to make sure it was consistent and totally objective from the get-go.
And speaking of evaluation, let's talk about a huge, massive red flag for any auditor: changing your evaluation criteria after you've already received proposals from suppliers. You just can't do it. The second you do that, it raises serious questions about whether the process was fair. The key is to lock in your criteria up front and stick to it. No exceptions. Okay, moving on to the final stretch of the audit. Step 5 is the negotiation review. Here, auditors are looking for hard evidence of your discussions. Think meeting notes, revised offers, emails. Then, step 6, the approval and governance check. This is where they make sure the right people signed off at exactly the right time. And finally, we get to step 7, the audit conclusion, where they deliver their official verdict. And, speaking of approvals, this is something you've got to get right. It is absolutely non-negotiable. A yes you got from someone in the hallway, a quick looks good to me on a call, that means absolutely nothing in an audit. If you don't have a formal, documented sign-off in the system from the correct person, then as far as the auditor is concerned, it never, ever happened. So, after all that digging, what's the outcome? Well, it's the official audit findings. These can range from no issues, which is obviously what you're aiming for, to minor observations. But they can also be major noncompliance or even critical findings. And trust me, these aren't just labels. They have a real impact on procurement's credibility and can lead to much stricter rules down the line. So if the process is king, then what does the evidence look like? Well, think of it this way. Every single decision you make has to leave a breadcrumb, a clear, logical paper trail. Auditors are just following that trail of evidence to basically rebuild your entire sourcing event and make sure it was done with integrity. Let's break that down. When they're looking at your supplier evaluation, what's the evidence they need? They need to see the approved criteria you started with and the actual scoring sheets, all signed. When it comes to negotiation, they're going to ask for your meeting notes and any revised offers you received. And for governance, you guessed it, they need to see proof of the right approvals and that all-important final legal sign-off. There's a direct line between every action and the evidence required. Okay, so understanding the process is one thing, but being prepared is a whole different ballgame. So now let's shift gears and turn all this info into a super practical, audit-ready checklist you can actually use to get your documentation in order before an auditor ever walks through the door. Here we go. This is your game plan. You need a documented sourcing strategy. You need proof of approved supplier due diligence. You need clean RFP records. Of course, you need those signed evaluation sheets we keep talking about. You also need negotiation records, approvals for any deviations from the plan, proof of correct and timely approvals, and a final contract that actually lines up with everything you agreed to. This is your armor.
We've gone through a lot here. The steps, the evidence, the checklists. But honestly, it all comes down to one single powerful idea. So after all of this, What is the one undeniable, unbreakable rule you absolutely have to remember? This, right here. Let it sink in for a second. If it is not documented, it did not happen. I don't care what you know happened. I don't care what was said in a meeting or agreed to on a phone call. If you cannot show an auditor a document, a record, or a system log to prove it, then for the purpose of the audit, it simply never happened, period. So at the end of the day, passing a sourcing audit isn't really about defending a price. It's about proving that your process was solid. The biggest takeaway here is this. If you build a sourcing process that is disciplined, compliant, and transparent from day one, you won't just pass an audit. You'll build a stronger, more credible, and frankly, more valuable procurement team for your entire organization.